Hi, friends. I'm Bryn,
And this is Morgan.
and oh wow, and this is Friends Who Crime. Let's do that again. Hi, friends. I'm Bryn,
And I'm Morgan.
and this is Friends Who Crime.
Do friends who crime.
Before we get into today's story, do me a quick favor. Follow us on Instagram at Friends Who Crime, and if you enjoy the show, please give us a 5-star rating on your podcast platform, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever you're using. It really helps us out. I'm going to introduce my guest today. She's been on before. She's the one and only Morgan. Hello. How you doing? How's life?
I'm okay. Life is good. I've been doing lots of backpacking trips and guiding people through the mountains, so my body is weary, but my spirit is hot.
It's good to have a hot spirit. Any updates on life since the last time you were on?
Mm, not really. I There was someone that almost died on one of my trips. That was pretty
Yeah.
crazy.
Tell me
But
about that.
yeah, I mean, dude, he just like took a little tumble. I mean, a massive tumble. He fell 15 feet onto the top of his head and rolled a bunch of times and was like unconscious and bleeding heavily.
Oh my
So
God.
we had to like hike evac him out. So that was pretty crazy. That was like the first time that it's been like, wow, did I just look death in the face? But turns out no.
Good. I'm glad everything was okay. That is so scary.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, for this week's Brinterruption, I have just kind of a weird little story that I saw on the news.
Oh,
I might have already mentioned this to you, Morgan, but there was a guy in England who was arrested for going to a cemetery and pretending to be a ghost. So he would,
whoa.
yeah, he was walking up behind people and going like, ooh, and waving his arms and like scaring people. And obviously it's really distasteful from the perspective of someone who's there to like visit their loved one, but
Yeah.
from an outside perspective, he did get arrested and fined, which, sure, but it is so funny to imagine someone's ooh in a
Yeah.
cemetery.
It reminds me of like in SpongeBob when what's happening there like with the Flying Dutchman and someone's pretending to be a ghost and like moving like doing the finger trick, you know?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
ooh.
That's like all I can see.
Well, yeah, that's my short little interruption today. It's just something that made me giggle.
This is a good one. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. All right, you ready for this case?
I'm ready.
All right, this is the murder of Betsy Faria, and it does have a big twist in it. So get ready, buckle up. It-
Oh, oh, I'm ready.
oh, I'm ready. It was a cold December evening in suburban Troy, Missouri. This quiet block lined with modest brick houses would soon become a bloody crime scene. On December 27th, 2011, Russ Faria came home from hanging out with friends to the house he shared with his wife, Betsy Faria. What he found inside was a nightmare. Betsy was lying on the floor, dead, her body cold and battered. She had been stabbed more than 50 times.
Ah,
Russ panicked and called 911, telling the operator, "My wife killed herself," which first responders immediately found impossible to believe.
yeah.
In
Like
rea
who can stab themselves 50 times? Why would
My
that be
point.
his first thought of like, yeah, clearly she like no, like you would die before you could stab yourself that many times.
Hmm.
What a nerd. Sounds
That
like
was
Russ
my
is a big
first
old
thought.
nerd.
There's just no way. I don't know. I feel like stabbing yourself at all is almost impossible. It's like we could bite our own pinky off if we wanted to, but our body stops us, right? Same
Right.
idea.
Yeah.
So in reality, Betsy's wounds were gruesome and purposeful, deep punctures to her skull, left eye, and throat. And she'd also been stabbed in the head and torso. Paramedics concluded that she likely died at least an hour before Russ called for help based on the state of her body. So, a little suspicious in one hand, right?
Yeah, yeah. Seeming like Russ is not just like a nice little husband that found his sad dead wife, but like I'm getting vibes.
The crime scene was chaotic. The kitchen was a mess. Saucepans left with dried sauce inside, Christmas decorations strewn on the floor by the corpse. Russ's own slippers were found tossed inside a closet with blood spattered on them. Shockingly, none of Betsy's blood was found anywhere on Russ's clothes or body. But investigators did find his tan suede shoes with blood on the toes, almost like they'd been dipped into blood.
Hmm.
Everything was pointing in a strange direction, and police were growing suspicious.
Okay. Yeah, this is giving like OJ Simpson vibes.
Mm, that's a good comparison.
Thanks.
Deputy Chris Hollingsworth, the first officer on the scene, saw Russ sitting in the living room, visibly upset but oddly calm at times. He noticed Russ's alternating behavior. One moment, the husband was sobbing and shaking. The next, he was laughing and chatting about childhood stories with police officers, as if catching up with an old neighbor. This flip
Hmm.
from hysteria to normal conversation struck the police as kind of bizarre. On the 911 call, Russ repeatedly moaned and cried, "No, no, no, my God." But when he was sitting in the squad car with officers, he was calm and even joked about their old neighbor. When alone, Russ would break down again, whispering, "No, Betsy, I didn't kill her." The detectives noticed this pattern and found it suspicious. One of them even asked, "Why didn't you just go back and hold her?" Russ kept insisting, "I wasn't there. I didn't kill her."
I feel like anyone that's gonna, I don't know, like come out the gate being like, I didn't do it, like, no, it wasn't me, like whispering as an aside, like I would also be suspicious because that just feels like he's trying to, I don't know, like play the like, oh, poor, like sad little husband that's like clearly like a weirdo, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely a weird thing that's going on.
Yeah.
In fact, Russ had a solid alibi for the night. He'd been at a friend's house playing video games and then stopped at a fast food place before heading home. An alibi confirmed by witnesses and a receipt from Arby's, which sounds really good right now. I kind of want Arby's. But the police weren't convinced. They questioned why he would leave his wife in a pool of blood and go for help instead of immediately attending to her. Russ even failed a breathalyzer test and later a polygraph at the police station. Officers told him he failed the polygraph, and their tone during interrogation became accusatory. I always
What
like
is a polygraph? Is that like a
polygraph
lie
is a
detector test?
yeah, lie detector test. And I always like
Okay.
to say that polygraphs are notoriously inaccurate. Like they're not admissible in court because they're so
Mm,
inaccurate. Um, and so I always tell everyone this is my advice that I've gotten from different places is never take a polygraph test. Don't do it.
okay.
Just say no because something like
Mm,
this could happen.
yeah, it could like implicate you.
Finally, after intense questioning, Russ was arrested on January 4th, 2012 for first-degree murder. By the next day, the local TV news was already broadcasting the story titled "Marital Problems Led to Stabbing Death of Lincoln County Woman."
Dude.
I know, the media. In it, a friend of Betsy's was quoted claiming Betsy had been scared of Russ and was thinking of leaving him. Authorities portrayed the Farias' marriage as rocky and hinted at a secret life. insurance benefits that might have motivated the killing. In the media's narrative, Russ was a perfect suspect. But there was another person at the scene whose role would turn out to be far more sinister than anyone expected. Pam Hupp.
Hmm.
Pam Hupp was a friend and former coworker of Betsy's, and on the night of the murder, she had given Betsy a ride home from her mother's house. According to investigators, Pam had dropped Betsy off in Troy around 7 p.m. and then gone home. That night, Pam claimed Betsy was upset about moving plans and that she had left Betsy on the couch wrapped in a blanket. Pam told police how she even had a phone conversation with Betsy on the way home when she pulled off to the side of the road. Pam and Betsy just wanted to say goodnight before going to bed. Later, Pam said she called Betsy again and went to bed herself when she didn't get an answer. Something else you should know is that Betsy had stage 4 breast cancer. Pam dropped her off
Oh.
at her house after taking her to her chemotherapy appointment.
So Pam dropped her off after being at her mom's house, but also after a chemotherapy appointment.
Yes.
Are those like she forgot her story and so gave a different one, or like it's been shown that like okay, yeah, both happened?
Pam went to her mom's house and then drove Betsy to chemo and then dropped Betsy off.
Word. Okay, I see what's
Yes,
happening.
I believe that's the timeline. The investigators noted some odd details in Pam's story. She emphasized that Betsy's house was unlocked with the lights off when she left. A strange claim since Pam knew Russ might be home. She fixated on seeing a silver Nissan Maxima in the driveway, which she assumed was Russ's car. She also pointed out Betsy didn't have her purse or keys, and that Russ had allegedly told Betsy not to carry her purse to chemo appointments, even though Betsy always carried it. In interviews, Pam's account wavered. At one point, she said she never went inside Betsy's house. Then she said she went in just to flip on a light. Then she said Betsy, quote, walked her to the door as she left. She even corrected herself on the phone call timeline, shifting when she claimed to have called Betsy. Investigators quietly jotted down all of it, but for now, Pam Hupp was cooperating fully and presenting the story the authorities wanted to hear.
Dude, I find this like the fact that there's so many. I mean, that's like a million red flags. Granted, like Russ also giving me red flags, but the fact that like I don't even understand the story that she's trying to paint. So she called Betsy after dropping Betsy off at her house. And when she dropped Betsy off at the house, she was like, "Oh, how weird. It's dark inside." And
But
then like
Russ might
went
be
in.
home.
Yeah, and then if Betsy's inside, why would you go inside and like turn on a light? Like
Right.
that makes no sense unless she's like trying to argue that she left and then came back to the house sometime later. But either way, like that's kind of like that to me is just like a dumbass little story you're trying to give there,
It's just
Pam.
all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, the recap here, quick recap. Dead woman, grieving husband, and now his friend is basically interviewing herself to the cops. So, lots of things going on here. But
So real quick, is Pam is Betsy's friend or Pam is Russ's friend?
sort of both.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So friend and former coworker of Betsy's, but kind of a family friend sort of thing.
Heard. Okay.
Meanwhile, detectives also interviewed Russ. He reportedly told them he had walked in the door to a horrific scene and immediately called 911. He sobbed, saying, "I found her like that." One detective bluntly told him, "You killed your wife."
Whoa.
Yeah. Russ pleaded with them, saying, I walked in. I wasn't there. He was desperate to prove he didn't do it. With Russ as the only suspect on paper, the case went to trial in 2013. The prosecution's star witness was none other than Pam Hupp herself.
Hmm.
On the stand, Hupp painted a damning picture of Russ. She spoke of Betsy's fear of her husband, of how she thought Russ would kill Betsy after a fight about moving plans, and how she just felt guilty leaving Betsy with him that night. You look perplexed.
Yeah, I mean, like, is there any validity? Like, was there any history of like, I don't know, like abuse or like, I don't know, like verbal, people being like, oh my God, people are yelling in this house, like anything to implicate Russ that like, I don't know, the court would have reason to suspect that like, oh, maybe he was abusive and this was warranted.
Not that I found. What I found was that, yeah, they had like squabbles and they were like moving. They were talking about moving, and that was a point of contention for them in their relationship at that moment, but it wasn't like it didn't ever turn physical. It was just like typical couple squabbles.
So for Pam to be like, I feared for her life is like probably jumping to several conclusions.
That's her story, and she's sticking to it.
Word.
Um, so she feels really guilty, apparently, about leaving Betsy with Russ that night. Under Pam's testimony, the jury was led to believe Russ was a cold, greedy husband capable of murder. The defense lawyer, Joel Schwartz, argued that this all seemed too convenient, too neatly settling Russ as the villain. They convicted Russ Faria of first-degree murder in 2013, and he was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years. Russ was completely devastated, and he ended up spending about 3.5 years behind bars.
Okay, that's less than life plus 30.
Hmm. Bum, bum,
Hmm.
bum.
Oh, whoa.
But crazy, right? Like he's convicted. It's like to them, it's like open and shut case. Like he did
That's
it,
what, like,
done.
yeah. I mean, just all based off of one woman's account. Were there any other witnesses on the stand or any other like testimony given?
Nope.
That seems like pretty fucked up that it would. I mean, at this point, other than the blood on his shoes, there's nothing that makes him more likely than her, other than her saying, like, oh, I swear it was him, like, for sure,
Right.
which, like, anyone could do.
Right. And I think the reason they convicted him was that he had motive, and I think he was the only one that had obvious motive.
Hmm. Okay.
And like he's the one
Hmm.
that called the police, and like he didn't, finger quotes, he didn't attend to her as soon as he saw her. But also, like, if you walk in, you find your wife dead. I don't know that I'm gonna want to touch her
Well,
either.
yeah. And like the whole like, oh, you didn't attend to her. Like, what are you gonna do if she's dead? Just like hold her corpse and like soak yourself in her blood. Like, I
Right.
also, if I walk in to like a corpse, my first like gut reaction, if I can tell that that person's obviously dead, is not going to be to like pick them up and like hold them, because then it's like, oh shit, like you're a suspect because you were there, and when you're covered in the blood, like that's like contaminating evidence.
Right. Totally. I could understand
Yeah.
like if you call 911 and they're like, "Hey, check her pulse." Make sure she's not
Yeah.
breathing. That's one thing. But for them to like hold it against him that like you didn't cradle your wife, your dead bloody wife, like that just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, how did all this happen? How did he only spend 3.5 years in prison? You might be wondering.
Oh, oh, I am.
After the first trial, Russ's lawyers appealed. In 2015, he was granted a bench trial, which is a retrial with just a judge rather than with a whole jury. So the judge is like fully in charge of guilt or innocence or anything like that. He makes the call. They make the call.
Mhm.
So key evidence could finally come in. Now Schwartz was allowed to present information that had been kept out of the first trial, and that was the thing that made the difference.
Why did they leave key evidence out of the first trial? Was it just because they didn't have it yet, or was it something that was like conveniently just, you know, kerfuffled away?
A little bit of both. So they either did not have it yet, or it was the judge had ruled that it was not admissible
Okay.
or like wasn't relevant.
Hmm.
So the new trial revealed things like Betsy's life insurance policy. Only days before her death, Betsy had taken out a $150,000 life insurance policy that was mysteriously made payable not to her husband Russ, but to her friend Pam Hupp.
Huh.
Yeah. The
So,
j-
oh, sorry, I have so many questions. This is just so good.
so this
So,
is
like,
great.
her taking out a life insurance policy, I'm trying to think, what does that show? Like, does that show, like, oh, what a good friend? She wanted to give money to her friend Pam, knowing that she would die. Or is that like potentially like she was threatened, or Pam was like in her financials somehow and like taking out money? Like, what? I know you're going to tell me, but like, what does this lead to? What does this imply?
Right. It would be one thing if this policy had been taken out years ago, right? And
Hmm.
to me, in my mind, if it was taken out years ago and it was given to Russ as the beneficiary, that
Hmm.
makes sense to me, right? Even if it was years ago
Yeah.
and it was, Pam was the beneficiary, that's one thing. But it was days before Betsy died. She took the policy out and made Pam the beneficiary. That's what's suspicious about it. So if Betsy dies, Pam gets $150,000.
Wow. And was there anything in there for Russ at all, or was it essentially just like everything got signed over to Pam?
That life insurance policy, so a will would be different, like things that belonged to Betsy could be given to Russ, but this life insurance money would all be given to Pam.
Bro, that is like the most obvious, like neon sign in Vegas being like, Pam killed her.
Hmm. And of
Oh,
course, the
okay.
judge was just as shocked as we are. The fact had been hidden from the first jury, and it's a huge piece of evidence. It's a huge thing.
Yeah.
Once the judge heard all the withheld evidence and Pam's odd behavior, the scene at the bench trial was completely different from the first hearing. The judge
Mm.
noted how unlike the original trial, oh, the judge noted how unlike the original trial this felt. In fact, when the verdict finally came, Russ's knees literally gave out from under him. He was overwhelmed with relief when the judge announced his acquittal and released him from prison.
Wow. Just like that. Like just because of the life insurance policy, they were like, well, damn, we fucked up. And that was
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, among little other things, but that was the big one. Yeah.
Okay.
An official ruling overturned his conviction, leaving everyone to wonder if Russ didn't kill Betsy, who did?
Clearly, Pam.
Clearly to us, right?
Yeah.
But before we get there, can you imagine the relief that he felt? Like he was fighting and fighting and thinking he was going to end up behind bars for the rest of his life.
Plus 30 years, which what the hell does that even mean? Like we're gonna hold your corpse in prison after you die. Just
I
to
mean,
like really
kinda.
Damn, that's so fucked. Yeah, I mean, gosh, what a huge moment to just like think that your life is over and then suddenly just be like, fine.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think like in this case, the justice system did its job. Like this is what the justice system is designed for, and this is why we have appeals. And there's so many other cases I've done where the justice system kind of fucks people over, and in this case it did
Mhm.
not. So that's good.
Yeah.
Once Russ was free, investigators turned their attention fully onto Pam. They retraced her steps and uncovered a bizarre web of new evidence. For one, cell phone records showed Pam's phone pinging near Betsy's house less than an hour before the murder, contradicting her earlier stories that she was at home relaxing or taking Betsy to her chemo appointment. Detectives also dug into Pam's recent history and found a disturbing trail.
Oh, Bryn, I have goosebumps. This is so good.
It gets worse. It turned out Pam Hupp had been at the center of another murder. In 2016, 3 years after Betsy's death, she shot and killed a 33-year-old man named Louis Gumpenberger in her home in O'Fallon, Missouri.
Whoa, wait. Okay, after Betsy's murder. So this is like, dang. Okay. So maybe she wasn't actually. Oh, wait. Oh, fuck. Sorry, my brain is like pinging details across the border. So Russ is released from prison 3 years later. Then this 3 years later that she shoots and kills Homeboy is coinciding with the time that Russ is released from prison, eh?
It's within like the 6 month mark. Yeah.
Dude, you just don't do that. Like, what a dummy. If you kill somebody else,
hmm
okay.
So Lewis, this other victim, had severe physical and mental disabilities from a car accident, so he was especially vulnerable.
Hmm.
And here's where things get even more weird. Pam had been going around pretending to be a Dateline NBC producer, telling people she was working on an episode about Betsy Faria's case.
What? That's weird as fuck.
I
Why would
know.
you do that? That's like, again, like, hello, like landing strip straight to like, I'm the murderer. To say something like that. Like, you don't just like bring up something that you're lying about. I don't know.
She
That's, wow.
She claimed she needed someone to reenact a 911 call for the show and was willing to pay $1,000 for it.
Oh, wow. Oh my God, what a Gumby. This is
A
crazy.
Gumby? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
The reenactment Pam described was basically a script. She told Lewis to pretend to be sent by Russ Faria, to hand her cash, and to repeat certain lines while she recorded it. Police believe her real plan was darker: lure Lewis to her house, kill him, and then claim he was a hitman Russ had hired to finish the job. A fake murder for hire plot meant to make Russ look like he was still out for blood over the Betsy situation.
Oh my God.
So Pam shoots Lewis in her own living room, calls 911, and claims self-defense. But it unraveled instantly. The script she gave him was found on his body. Her phone records placed her near where she'd picked him up, and witnesses had already told police about a blonde woman offering strangers cash for a Dateline reenactment.
Wow, what a trail.
She's really doing her worst.
Yeah. Best work, not her finest moment in hiding murder.
No. Um, So Pam eventually took an Alford plea, meaning she didn't admit guilt, but she accepted that there was enough evidence to convict her, and she got life in prison. But the whole thing was essentially a dress rehearsal for framing Russ again. When investigators looked into the Gumpenberger case, more strange facts popped up. A neighbor had reported that days before the shooting, a blonde woman claiming to be. Oh, wait, I already said that. Okay. So the neighbor called 911 saying that there was a Dateline producer offering the $1,000. The neighbor got suspicious and called the police herself. And later, security camera footage would catch Pam's SUV at the scene. Police pieced together that Pam's real motive was to copy Betsy's murder scenario and frame Russ Faria for two killings. It was,
Wow.
yeah, so she was trying to frame him not only for Betsy's murder, but now for Lewis's murder as well.
So I'm so confused on like what I obviously I know. So she had what's his name? The second guy that got killed?
Lewis.
Lewis. So she had Lewis read this script, and the script was supposed to implicate that like he was a hitman from Russ.
So this is all so complicated. There's a couple of theories here. The first is that she convinced Lewis she was a Dateline producer, and he came over and she was like, "Here's this script, reenact this 911 call, right? From Betsy's
Yeah.
murder." Um, and there's an exchange of money happening, and then she shot and killed him and told the police, it was self-defense. He was a hitman that Russ sent to kill me to finish the job,
Hmm.
right? Um, but then some people also think she just wanted to lure him in and kill him and like just like did that for fun.
Like for shits and giggles because she's a psychopath.
Right.
Neat. I mean, either way, really fucking dumb. Like, I don't think either situation makes sense. um, and her like I don't know, like luring him in to do a call to recreate something from Betsy's murder when that was 3 years ago. Like, I don't understand how she could have thought that, like, this makes sense. This will implicate Russ somehow.
Right.
Instead, I feel like it only makes it so much more obvious that she did it.
And I think in my mind, she was like grasping at straws, knowing that he was in the middle of this appeal and that there was new
Mm.
evidence against her. And I think it was like, oh, well, if he, sends a hitman to kill me, then obviously it wasn't me. Like,
Yeah, because that's what you're going to do, like, fresh out of prison is, like, you know, find a hitman to go kill somebody that, like, testified against you. Like, I don't know, maybe, but no, I think not.
yeah, not in this case. So Pam has been charged with Lewis's murder. She took an Alford plea. She went to prison for life, right? So now
Nice.
the police are like, okay, if she killed this guy and she was trying to frame Russ for it, what if she's done this before? Okay?
That's
By
astute connections.
great police work. By mid-2021, local prosecutors had enough. They officially charged Pamela Hupp with the first-degree murder of Betsy Faria in July of 2021. Hupp pleaded not guilty, but she is now the focus of a federal murder for hire investigation. Her trial has been delayed several times, but it is set for August of 2026.
Oh my God, it's like coming up.
It is a year from now.
Dude, that's crazy that this is still ongoing.
Yeah.
This was like Betsy was murdered back in 2013, you said?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Damn. Wow.
So, and then, the trial for Russ took a while, and then he was in prison for 3.5 years. appealed. That took a while. And then the trial for Lewis's murder took a while. So it's just the justice system going through all the motions. And now here we finally are. After a few delays in a year, fingers crossed, this trial will begin.
Holy crap. And this is the trial for like uh convicting her with Betsy's murder?
Yes.
Okay.
Every piece of evidence points to the truth that the prosecution's original star witness in the original trial, the friendly neighbor who seemed so concerned, was actually the killer. My guess is it won't be hard to find her guilty. Seems like there's plenty of evidence. Pam Hupp, the woman who cried on the stand and insisted Russ was brutal and homicidal, turned out to be the one with the real motive and the knife. After Russ was exonerated, police summed it up by saying, quote, "What investigators found led them down a dark trail featuring at least two murders, Betsy's and Lewis's, and both trace back to Hupp. In her world, greed for insurance money was king. She was the beneficiary of Betsy's $150,000 policy, and she'd inherited from her own mother under suspicious circumstances as well.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, her mother had fallen off a balcony in 2013, and the death had been ruled undetermined.
Brother, 2013, the same fucking year that Betsy's murdered?
Yep.
Dog. There's no way that's not her.
There's no proof either way, but, allegedly, I think she could have done it.
Oh my God. For sure she did it. That's like, I don't know, that's like Voldemort casting the spell to give Harry the scar and then being like, I don't know, he probably didn't also kill Harry's mom though. That doesn't make sense. Like, of course. Like, what the fuck?
There's connections there for sure, and it would not shock me. I don't think it would shock anyone at this point if that was also her doing. And if that's true, then she's got three murders under her belt.
At least.
At least. Yeah, true. Imagine the jury's shock when all of this came out. For years, everyone talked about the Faria case as if it was this clear-cut marital homicide. And now it turns out, and this is a tweet from one of the locals, even Hollywood doesn't write scripts this convoluted. The detective who once scoffed at Russ's innocence told a reporter he still thought Russ was the only suspect back in 2011, but he clearly hadn't considered another logistical suspect lurking in plain sight, Pam Hupp. Today, Russ Faria is a free man living his life again while Pam Hupp sits in prison awaiting trial. The tables turned. The friend who testified on the stand became the villain of this tale. Pam's lies and deceit about dateline shootings, ghost stories, and fake worry for Betsy were all part of her attempt to cover her tracks. She fooled the police once, but not twice. In court, it will be up to the jury to decide her fate for what she did to her dying friend. Before we close out, I just want to bring it back to the people that this is really about. Betsy Faria was a mom, a sister, and a friend who lit up rooms even while battling stage 4 cancer. She deserved to spend her last years surrounded by love and peace, not violence and betrayal.
Mm-hmm.
And Louis
Ugh.
Gumpenberger, he'd been through so much after his accident, but people remembered his sense of humor and big heart. Neither of them got the future they deserved, and I think the best thing we can do is make sure their names are remembered more than the person who took them away.
Oh my God, Bryn. Ugh. Wow. Never have I ever heard like a true crime podcast be like that. Like normally it's just like, and they're still out there and you have to look over your shoulder any moment. But to be able to just like actually like, I don't know, like pour one out for the homies and realize that like that's what this is about. And it's not about Pam, even though she a bitch, but it's about the people who died.
Yep.
Uh,
That's something that I really
oh,
try and focus on, and I'm not perfect, and sometimes I am really focused on, the serial killer or the insane, gruesome crime that happened, but I definitely wanted to bring it back around this time because that's Pam is, the scum of the earth and doesn't deserve to be
mhm.
remembered, whereas Betsy and Louis were just living life trying to do their best, and it was taken away from
Yeah.
them, which is
Oh,
just so
wow.
sad. Nobody deserves that.
Mm-mm.
With all that said, thank you, Morgan, for
Dog.
listening to this. This was a crazy one.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I texted you whenever we were like on our break that just this really does feel like you're just watching the most like gripping episode of Dateline ever, where it's just like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next? And so my two things here. First of all, did you say ghost stories when you were referring to Pam?
She had a lot of things that she was throwing out there. There was like too many
Like,
things. She's just so full of shit that she was like, well, a ghost. What if a ghost maybe did this? And you don't know. It was a lot.
so she's just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks.
Exactly.
That's so funny to be like, okay, well, if it wasn't Russ, then yeah, perhaps ghosts and goblins. Amazing. Okay. That's so dumb. And then also, I feel like it's always the neighbor, Like there's
Mm.
definitely going to be murder cases where it's like, okay, sure, it was a marital dispute, or like, okay, maybe it was like the brother or something like that. But I feel like it's typically like the nice little neighbor that's just like, little old me, it couldn't be. I was just pruning my roses. But like, I feel like this was very similar. Whenever I was in the Selena Quintanilla episode, and it was like this woman who was like not the neighbor, but kind of like the friend neighbor archetype, that
Hmm.
it's just like the person who's just like sneakily in the background that's getting really close to this person that's kind of weaving their way into their affairs makes so much more sense than like the husband who's just like, oh my God, my wife is dead. I don't know what the fuck to do. I'm going to call the police. Like, I would have done the same thing, Russ. I would have done the same thing.
And it's hard to know because a lot of times, it's always the husband or it's always the wife. Like but in this
Hmm.
case, I think Pam, took advantage of that assumption of like, it's always the husband. And it
Hmm.
worked. It worked until it didn't.
Yeah, until it didn't. Dang.
And she took it just one step too far with Louis.
With just another murder.
Yeah,
Jesus.
so
Her
sad.
poor mother, I'm sure as well. Like, that's just, I wonder how many other little things will like come out as this trial is getting ready to happen in 2026, you said August?
Hmm.
Dang. I'm like so stoked for that.
Yeah. And that'll be another one that like I will keep my eyes out and my ears out as this year kind of comes around, and perhaps we shall do an update in a year.
Ooh. Ooh. I would
Yes.
love that.
Yeah. That's all I got for you today.
No.
Again, thank you so much for taking time out of your life and, pausing your nature hikes for a moment to come hang out with me.
Dude, this is the greatest respite from that. So thank you.
Uh, and yeah, listeners, I hope you enjoyed that. I'll be back next week with a new guest, a new case. And until then, remember, friends don't let friends commit crimes. Bye.